Alright, they're making some noise outside. Let's see if my neighbor yells at them. Alright, friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Chavav, Daf 26 of Masechta Taanis. Friends, Daf 26, we start the next parak, the last parak of Masechta Taanis. Very, very interesting stuff. Talks about the mishmars and the maimads, the different people that would be working in Jerusalem at the temple. Super interesting stuff. Friends, let's jump in. B'shlosha prokim. Bashana kohanim nosin es kapeim arba paimim bayom. There are 3 times throughout the year that the kohanim, they bless the people taka 4 times in the day. B'shachris b'musaf mincha v'nil shayrim, at shachris, at the morning prayers, the musaf prayers, at the afternoon prayers, and the ne'ilas shayrim prayers when they lock the gates. The question is, Rashi gives 2 options. Maybe it's the gates of the Beis HaMikdash, maybe it's the gates of heaven. Very, very interesting. Taanis of Maimados of Yom Kippurim on fast days, as well as the Maimados, which we're going to learn about in a second, and Yom Kippur. The Maimados, we're about to learn about now. Super interesting. Honestly, in my mind, it's not super clear what these Maimados are, but as we're going to learn in a minute, basically the idea behind these Maimados are that, every day, of course, the Yidden would bring, the Kohanim would offer korbanis in the Beis HaMikdash. Alright? Communal korbanis, korban tamid shel shachar, korban tamid shel ben arbaim, musafin, if relevant, if necessary, like all sorts of sacrifices. Now, since these are communal sacrifices for all the people, so we should all be sort of standing next to the sacrifices and be there when we offer them. But that's not plausible because they're we can't all be there. So there were like appointed people whose job it was to be praying and standing by the korbanos. Now, all of the people in the Maimud wouldn't necessarily be in Yerushalayim. Some people would just be in their various cities, and they would fast and they would pray and read from the Torah, etc. And they would sort of in that way they would be sort of connecting to the korbanos and sort of being there for the korbanos. There were other people that were taka in Jerusalem, and they would be there by the korbanos when they were being offered. And in that way, we had, the nation was sort of, it's not just that there was these offerings that were being offered every day in the temple far away from everybody, and it wasn't really part of anybody's life. It's like happening far away. There were actually these maimados in all the different cities, that there would be people who would be praying and fasting and doing all sorts of things together with the korbanos that were being offered in the temple in Jerusalem. So, Elu in Maimados, these are the Maimados. Why do we do them? The Fishanemar, because the pasuk says, Tzavas b'nei Yisrael es korbani la'achmi. That the pasuk says to command the Yidden to do the korban tamid shel shachar, the korban tamid shel ben arbaim, v'chiheyach korbani shaladim karev v'einu omer al gab. How can it be that a fellow's korban is being offered and he is not there, he is not present when his korban is being offered? Iskinu Nevim Arishonim, the prophets, the early prophets, we're going to see David HaMelech, Shmuel, even Moshe Rabbeinu, they established Esim V'Arba Mishmaros, 24 of these Mishmars. Al Kol Mishmar Hayamaimid B'Yushalayim Shekhanim Shalvim V'Yisraelim. Right, and just like there were 24 mishmas, there are also 24 maimads. Now, it's unclear a little. It's, again, as I was saying, there's lots of details here about the maimados that in my mind are a little bit unclear. But anyways, of course, we've learned about the 24 mishmaros, right, that the kohanim were divided into 24 groups. And there were also 24 maimados. And Rashi, the Gemara, the Mishnah says over here, Shel kohanim shel levim v'shel Yisraelim, that these maimados were kohanim, levim, and Yisraelim. Unclear if it means that the kohanim and the levim are like just, basically referring to the mishmar, that you had groups of kohanim, groups of levim who would be working in the temple, and then you had the Yisraelim who were in the maimados. Maybe it could be that the maimados also were kohanim, levim, and Yisraelim. Again, not super clear to me what it is, but what is clear is that just like there were 24 mishmaros of kohanim and levim working in the Beis HaMikdash, there were also 24 maimados of people who would be there to sort of take upon themselves the responsibility of like being there with the korbanos and praying, and even if they weren't there physically, but sort of even in their cities fasting and whatever it is. Higiyazman Mishmar Lalos, when it came time for the Mishmar to go to Jerusalem, so kohanim levim olim liyushalayim, so the kohanim, the priests and the Levites would go to Jerusalem to do their Mishmar over there. And all of the Israelites who were part of essentially the Maimed, so they would wherever they would live, they would go to their they would gather in their cities and they would read Maaseh Bereishis b'Yom HaRishon, Bereishis v'Hi Rakia, that on day 1, on Sunday, they would read Bereishis and V'Hi Rakia, B'Sheni Yirakia v'Yikavu HaMayim, B'Shlishi Yikavu HaMayim, V'Me'oros. Again, these are different parshas in Bereishis. Barvi, on Wednesday, Yihi Me'oros v'Yishutzu HaMayim, B'Chamishi, on Thursday, Yishutzu HaMayim, B'Totzei HaOretz, B'Shishi, on Friday, B'Totzei HaOretz, B'Chula HaShamayim. Right? So every day they would read different parshas. Parsha Gedolah Koran also B'Shnayim v'Haktana B'Yochid, and if it was a larger chunk of Torah, so they would have break it up into 2 aliyahs. If it was a smaller chunk, so it would be 1 aliyah. B'Shachris b'Musaf v'Mincha nichnosin v'Korin Alpian. Now, the Gemara is going to have to explain exactly what this means, but at Shachris and Musaf and Mincha, they would read it by heart. Now, again, the Gemara is going to explain what exactly they're reading by heart, who's reading, when are they reading. Kikorin Shema, as though they're reading Shema, fine. Erev Shabbos b'mincha lo hayu nechnasim pnei kvod Shabbos. And on Friday afternoon, for mincha, when they wouldn't gather and do the Maimon thing because they had to be getting ready for Shabbos. Kol yom sheyesh bo halal, any day that has a halal, right? It's Chanukah. So Chanukah, there's Halal, so there wouldn't be a Maimid b'Shachris. They wouldn't have this Maimid in Shachris because they were busy saying Halal. Korban Musaf ein b'Ne'ilah. And if, there was a Musaf that day, so then they wouldn't do the Maimid by Ne'ilah, and Korban Eitzim ein b'Mincha. And if there was a Korban Eitzim that we're going to learn about in a minute, then they wouldn't have the Maimid by Mincha. Divrei Rabbi Akiva, that's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Omer lo ben Azai. Ben Azai says to Rabbi Akiva, Kachoy Rabbi Yeshua Shoneh. Rabbi Yeshua would taka teach Korban Musaf ein b'Mincha, that when there was a Korban Musaf, then there wouldn't be Maimid at Mincha. Korban Eitzim ein b'Ne'ilah. When there was a Korban Eitzim, then there wouldn't be at Ne'ilah. Chaz Rabbi Akiva lios Shoneh ke Ben Azai. And Rabbi Akiva then went to agree with Ben Azai. Okay, that sounds very nice. Now we're about to learn what exactly these Zman Atzei Kohanim are. Although I don't think that we actually explained it here. So basically, when the Yidden, the Gemara is going to explain that when the Yidden, when the Yidden came back for the second temple, so there was no wood for the Mizbeach and stuff. So these families, they took the opportunity to donate wood to the temple for the sacrifices. So they have these like reserved days that they were always able to contribute wood for these sacrifices, and they would bring korbanos. So Zman Atzei Kohanim ve'am. So the times that of this wood that they would donate the wood, Tisha, there are 9 of them. Bechad b'Nisan b'nei Aruch ben Yehuda. All right. So on the 1st of Nisan was the b'nei Aruch ben Yehuda. Be'esrim b'Tammuz. On the 20th of Tammuz, Bnei David ben Yehuda, all right, and the 20th of Tammuz is the children of David ben Yehuda, okay. B'Chamisha ba'Av, on the 5th of Av, Bnei Parish ben Yehuda, the son of Parish ben Yehuda. B'Shiva bo, on the 7th of Av, Bnei Yonadav ben Rochov, all right. B'Asar bo, on the 10th of Av, as we've seen a few times, Bnei Sanoah ben Binyamin, the children of Sanoah ben Binyamin, right? We've seen a few times that Rabbi Lazar Reb Tzaddik was one of the one of the descendants of Sanoah ben Binyamin, and he describes how they would have like a Yom Tiv on the 10th day of Av. B'Chamisha also on the 15th of Av, Bnei Zeisu ben Yehuda, V'imoim Kohanim Levim, and with them priests and Levites, Chamisha Tov b'Shivto, and anybody who made a mistake with his tribe. And the people with the pestle, and the people with the fig cakes, as we're going to see. The Gemara explain what's the deal with the pestle and the fig cakes. Be'esrimbo, on the 20th of Av, Pachas Moab ben Yehuda. Be'esrim be'Elo, on the 20th of Elo, Bnei Adin ben Yehuda. Bechol B'Teves, in the first of Teves, Shavu B'nei Parosh Shnia, the children of Parosh would come back a second time. Nochamo, Bechol B'Teves, and now on the first of Teves, Lo Yabo Maimid, there was no Maimid at all. Shoyabo Halal, because since it's Chanukah, there would be Halal. The Korban Musaf, and there's also Korban Musaf because it's Rosh Chodesh, the Korban Eitzim and Oichet, Korban Eitzim, a sacrifice of wood because of these people. And we said that when there was a sacrifice of wood, so there wouldn't be the Maimid in the afternoon. There were 5 things that happened on the 17th day of Tammuz, V'chamisha B'Tisha B'Av, and 5 things happened on the 9th of the Shivos B'Tammuz, and the 17th of Tammuz, the Shtabra Luchis. The Luchis were broken. Uvatal Atomid, and they stopped doing the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar. That's insane, right? That they, every single day, they would offer the Korban Tamid twice a day, and then on the 17th of Tammuz, it just stopped. And I guess it has not started again. And Jerusalem was breached. The city was breached. B'saraf Apustumus Torah, and this fellow Apustumus burnt the Torah. Nudnik. V'hem etzelem beheichol, and Menashe put a idol in the heichol. Friends, these are not good things. B'Tisha B'Av, on the 9th day of Av, Nigzar alav Osenu shelo yikonsu la'aretz. That is when the decree happened that it was decreed that our fathers would not enter into Eretz Yisrael when they were in the desert. Both the first and second temple were destroyed on Tisha B'Av. The Nukuda Beisar, the big city of Beisar, was captured. And Jerusalem was plowed over on the 9th of Av. When Av enters, so we decrease our happiness levels. Shabbos, Shabbos, Shechol, Tisha B'Av, Lios B'Socha, the week that Tisha B'Av falls out on, also in the Sapim and Chabes, you're not allowed to get a haircut, and you're not allowed to wash clothing. Wash clothing, Lemais, is more of an issue for me. Is it? Well, I guess not, actually. Yeah. Alright, what am I going to tell you? No, I can easily go 9 days without washing my clothing. Anyways, this is not relevant for what we need to be doing right now. Where are we? So fine. No, v'chamishi, mutar. But I definitely wash my clothing more often than I get a haircut. That's for sure. More out of necessity. All right, let's go weiter. V'chamisha and on Thursday, mutarin, they're allowed to wash their clothing and get a haircut, because out of honor of the holy Sabbath. Erev Tisha B'Av lo yochel adam shnei tavshilin. On Erev Tisha B'Av, a fellow should not eat 2 cooked foods. Lo yochel basav lo yishte yain, shouldn't eat meat, shouldn't drink wine. Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer says, Rav Shimon Gamliel, Yeshana, he should change stuff around. Okay, the Gemara is going to have to explain what that means. Rabbi Yehuda Mechai b'chfiyas amito. Rabbi Yehuda says that you need to flip over your bed. Interesting. Rabbi Yehuda seems to be taking Tisha B'Av very, very seriously. It's very interesting. Why Dafka Rabbi Yehuda? The Rabbi said, no, you don't need to flip over your bed. Amar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, L'hayu yom tevim li Yisrael kachamisha asur b'av uchyom kippurim. That there were not such great days for the Yidden as much as the 15th day of Av and Yom Kippur. Sheboim b'nos Yisrael yotzos, that on those days, I guess Yom Kippur oichit, I don't know. On those days, the b'nos Yisrael, the Jewish girls, yotzos b'chlei lavan she'ulin, that they would go out wearing white clothes that were borrowed, so as not to embarrass somebody who didn't necessarily have the white clothing. So I guess there would be some kind of a gemach, and they would borrow white clothing, and the girls would go out wearing the white clothing. And they would put all the clothing in the mikvah. And the girls of Jerusalem would go out and they would dance in the vineyards. Wow, that sounds very, what does it sound? Very, I don't know, almost like, I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? It sounds very interesting. Umahayu omrus, and what would they say? Bacher, they would say, young fellow, Sana einecha, lift up your eyes, re'eh, and see, ma'ata bar lecha, what you are choosing for yourself. Altiten einecha benoi, don't look at beauty, teinecha b'mishpache, look at the family. Interesting. Shekachin vevel ayofi, grace is liars, false. Vehevel ayofi, and beauty is vain. Isha yiras Hashem tisalo, a woman who fears God is praiseworthy. V'omer, and the pasuk says, Tnula mipri yodea, give her from the fruits of her hands. V'halul b'shari ma'aseh, and they will praise her actions in the gates. Omer, and similarly it says, Tzenu re'ena b'nos Tzion b'melech Shlomo, go out and see the daughters of Zion, the king of Shlomo, Batar she'itra lo imo, the crown that his mother made for him, Yom Chasunosu v'Yom Simchas Libo, on the day of his wedding and on the day of the happiness of his heart. Yom Chasunosu Matan Torah, his wedding is referring to Matan Torah of Yom Simchas Libo, and the day of the happiness of his heart is Binyan Beis Hamikdash sheibone b'meir b'yameinu. That is the building of the temple, that it shall be built very speedily in our days. Wow. Very interesting stuff. Says the Gemara, that at 3 points in the year, the kohanim would bless the nation 4 times in a day. In fact, the Gemara, Taanis ma'amados mi'ika musaf. 1 second, how could it be that there are all 3 of these times, right? We said on fast days, on the ma'amados, right, which was when they would stand over the korbanos and they would fast, as well as Yom Kippur. So I get Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur has 4 prayers: Shachris, Musaf, Mincha, Ne'ilah. But the Maimados and the fast days don't have Musafs. So how could they be blessing the people 4 times in the day? And for the Gemara, well, it's just missing a few words. This is what it means to say, that there are 3 times throughout the year that the kohanim bless the people in each of the prayers, whatever they may be. If there are 3, if there are 4, whatever it is, but in each of the prayers they will be blessing the people. And there are 4 potential prayers when this may be. This is Shachris, Musaf, Mincha, and Ne'ilah Shairim. Now, not all 3 of these times have all 4 of those prayers, right? Yom Kippur is the only one that has Musaf. However, on the Maimados and the Tanios also, every single one of the 3 prayers, they would be blessing the people. And these are the 3 days, the 3 points. Tanios, Maimados, Yom Kippurim, the fast days, the Ma'amados days, and Yom Kippur. All right. Now I don't understand. When was the Ma'amados? Ma'amados were taka like essentially every day, right? So if that's the case, does that mean that like every day they would be blessing the people all the times? Or at least maybe the people participating in the Maimados? Maybe this is a sort of a support for the opinion that says that the Maimados was the Kohanim and the Leviim and Yisraelim, but I don't know. It's a little bit hard to tell. Again, as I was saying, I feel like some of the details in this Maimados are a little bit wishy-washy. What's clear is that the goal of it was that we want that there should be people praying and sort of being intentional about, people from the community being intentional about the communal sacrifices. There are some of the details there I'm a little bit unclear about. Rav Nachman, Rav Bar Avua, says Rav Nachman in the name of Rav Bar Avua, Zoti Rav Meir, that this is Rav Meir's opinion, right? That for example, on Musaf, that the Kohanim would duchin 4 times, that's the opinion of Rav Meir. Or that the Maimados and the Tanios 3 times. The Chacham say Shachris and Musaf yesh bo nesias kapayim. Sure, Shachris and Musaf will have Bircas Kohanim. Mincha and Ne'ilah in boim nesias kapayim. But Mincha and Ne'ilah would not have duchening. Man Chacham Rabbi Yehuda. Who are the Chacham? When we say that the Chacham say that a Musaf and at Mincha, that in Mincha and Ne'ilah there is no Birkas Kohanim. That is Reb Yehuda. The Taanis we learned in the Brisa, Shachris u'Musaf Mincha Ne'ilah Kulan Yesh B'nei Nesias Kapayim Tiv Reb Meir. The Reb Meir's opinion is that at all four prayers, Shachris, Musaf, Mincha, Ne'ilah, there's Birkas Kohanim. Reb Yehuda Omer says Reb Yehuda, Shachris u'Musaf Yesh B'nei Nesias Kapayim, that while at Shachris and at Musaf there is Birkas Kohanim, Mincha u'Ne'ilas Kapayim in B'nei Nesias Kapayim. However, at Mincha and at Ne'ilah there is no Birkas Kohanim. Reb Yossi Omer Ne'ilah Yesh B'nei Nesias Kapayim, Mincha ein B'nei Nesias Kapayim. Whereas Reb Yossi's opinion is that while at Ne'ilah there would be Birkas Kohanim, not at Mincha. Okay, so Reb Meir basically says that all four prayers there would be Birkas Kohanim. Reb Yossi says Reb Yossi says skip Mincha. Other than that, there would be Birkas Kohanim. Whereas Reb Yehuda says Shachris and Musaf, but not Mincha and Ne'ilah. What is the machlokes here between Reb Meir, Reb Yehuda, and Reb Yossi? Reb Meir holds Koyoma Taimamai Lopai Shekana Yadayu B'Minchasu Mishum Shichrus. Every day of the year, how come the Kohanim would not do Birkas Kohanim during Mincha? Well, because they might be drunk at Mincha. But on a fast day, there is no drunkenness, and therefore you can do Birkas Kohanim at all four of the prayers. Rabbi Yehuda Savar Shachus u'Musaf Tichulei Yoma Lo Shchiach Shechus Lo Gazu B'Ravon. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, look, just like we're not concerned about people being drunk in the morning and at Musaf, right, for Shachris and Musaf, so also on a fast day, there's no Gezerah and Keilu, we can go ahead with Birkas Kohanim at Shachris and at Musaf. However, Minchon Ila D'chulei Yoma Shchicha Shechus Gazu B'Ravon. However, by Mincha and at Ne'ilah, where on a regular day we are concerned about drunkenness, so therefore even on fast days where, yes, practically speaking, people are not going to be drunk, but we still make a gezerah that since during the week, on regular days, there would not be Birkas Kohanim out of concern for drunkenness, so then even on fast days, we would not do Birkas Kohanim as a gezerah at Musaf and at Ne'ilah. Rabbi Yossi Sava, whereas Rabbi Yossi holds Mincha de'isa b'chol yoma gazu b'Rabbanan, that Mincha, which is a daily prayer, and every day we say don't do Birkas Kohanim at Mincha, so also on a fast day the rabbis made a gezerah. However, Ne'ilah de'leisa b'chol yoma lo gazu b'Rabbanan, but Ne'ilah, which is an anomaly, it's not something that we do every day, so therefore when we have Ne'ilah on a fast day, the rabbis did not make a gezerah, and we could do Birkas Kohanim at Ne'ilah. Amar Reb Yehuda, Amar Rav, halacha ki Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says the name Rav that the halacha is like Reb Meir. We go out and we tell people to do like Reb Meir. Reb Yochanan, Amar Nagwa Am Reb Meir. Whereas Reb Yochanan says that the minig is like Reb Meir, which means that the nation was noheg like Reb Meir, which means, okay, fine. So the nation was noheg like Reb Meir. We'll see what that means in a second. Rava Amar minig Reb Meir, whereas Rava says that the minig is like Reb Meir. So what's the distinction between the halacha being like Reb Meir, that the nation was noheg like Reb Meir, versus the minig being like Reb Meir? No, what is this? So Manda Amar halacha Reb Meir. So Manda Amar says that the halacha is mamish like Reb Meir. So in Darshinon la b'pirka, it means that we'll publicly state, right, in the drasha that the halacha is like Reb Meir. Manda Amar minig, and according to the Manda Amar, who says that the custom is like Reb Meir, so midrash lo darshinon oruye morinon. So then we wouldn't publicly proclaim that the halacha is like Reb Meir, but if you would ask us, we would tell you, yeah, do like Reb Meir. Manda Amar nagu, and according to the Manda Amar, who says that the nation was accustomed to do like Reb Meir, oruye lo morinon v'ovid v'lo madrinon lehi. It means that we would never suggest that somebody would do like Reb Meir's opinion, not in the public shir, not in an individual basis, but if you ended up doing like Reb Meir, so beseder. Rav Nachman Amar halacha Reb Yossi, whereas Rav Nachman says that the halacha is like Reb Yossi, and of course, as we know from Masechta Eruvin, that the halacha is like Reb Yossi Mechaverov, right? Because Reb Yossi Nimuko Imo, The halacha Reb Yossi, we say that the halacha is taka like Reb Yossi. My time in Parsha Kani Yadai Minchosu de Taanisa. How come nowadays the kohanim do Bircas kohanim at mincha of a fast day? If the halacha is like Reb Yossi that we don't do Bircas kohanim at mincha, so given the b'samuch l'shkia sachamo kaparsha kisfilas nila damyo. Since practically speaking they're doing Bircas kohanim close to shkia, so it's like neila. And Rabbi Yossi says that you would do Bircas kohanim at neila. Everyone seems to agree that a drunk person is not allowed to do Bircas kohanim. Where am I? What? Where am I? Menanimili. I don't know what just happened. But not Menanimili. How do we know this? How do we know that somebody who's drunk is not allowed to do Bircas kohanim? How come the Torah juxtaposes the blessing of the Kohen, the Bircas kohanim, to the parsha of Nazir? Just like a Nazir is not allowed to drink wine, also a blessing Kohen is not allowed to drink wine. But one second, just like a Nazir is not allowed to even eat grape seeds, so maybe a Kohen is not allowed to eat grape seeds. So Amr Bitzchak, well, the pasuk says in the context of kohanim to serve the Eibishter and to bless in his name. Just like somebody serving the Eibishter, right? A Kohen is allowed to eat grape seeds when he is doing the avoda. So it's also a Kohen who will be blessing the Yidden is allowed to eat grape seeds. Not allowed to be drunk, but he's allowed to eat grape seeds. Imam Mishar is balmum. Lo, af kohen mevarich ba'amum lo. But one second, when it comes to doing the service in the temple, a kohen that has a blemish is not allowed to do the service. So maybe a kohen who has a blemish is not allowed to bless the people. So iskush lenazir. Well, we compare a kohen to nazir, and a nazir could be a fellow with a blemish. Umaychozus demakshas lekula akish lechumra. Wait, so but why are we comparing it to the nazir to be lenient and say that he's allowed to have a blemish? Why don't we be more stringent and compare the kohen to the right to say just like doing the avoda? You're not allowed to have a blemish. So also you can't have a blemish when you do Bircas kohanim. So akish l'chumra. Why don't we be stringent? Asmachta ninu midabanon ulekulu ulekula. So we say, well, the truth is it's really just an asmachta derabanon, and therefore really the halacha is in fact that a kohen who's a balmum is allowed to do Bircas kohanim, and therefore the comparison, we're not learning out from the comparison to the nazir that a kohen with a balmum with a mum is allowed to do Bircas kohanim. No, it's a halacha that the kohen with a balmum is allowed to do Bircas kohanim, as in asmachta we compare it to a nazir that a nazir is allowed to be a balmum oichet. Well, friends, that was the Chav Vav of Masechta Taanis. I thought it was a super interesting daf, right? We learned about the Maimados, these 24 groups of people that would essentially just be there to like send good vibes and connect energetically with the kohanim who were offering the communal sacrifices in Jerusalem, and they would fast, they would read from the Torah. Super interesting stuff. We saw a three-way machlokas between Reb Meir, Reb Yehuda, and Reb Yossi regarding doing Bircas kohanim on fast days, right? So, for example, on Yom Kippur, there is Shacharis, Musaf, Mincha, and Ne'ilah. According to Reb Meir, you would do Bircas kohanim at all four of them. According to Reb Yossi, you would do it at 3 out of 4. We would not do Bircas kohanim at Mincha. And according to Reb Yehuda, you would not do Bircas kohanim at Mincha nor at Ne'ilah. Everyone, now the reason for those respective opinions is essentially a question of how much do we want to be concerned out of doing Bircas kohanim drunk, right? That during the week we only do Bircas kohanim at Shacharis and at Musaf, but not at Mincha, and certainly not at Ne'ilah, because there is no Ne'ilah during the week. The question is, how far do we have to apply that to fast days where people aren't eating it anyways, and technically speaking, you really shouldn't have to be concerned about drinking and about being drunk. Reb Meir says you don't have to be concerned about it at all. Reb Yehuda says you completely have to be concerned about it. Reb Yossi says, well, Ne'ilah isn't something that we have to be concerned about during the week anyways, whatever it is. But everyone seems to be agreeing that a Kohen is not allowed to do Birkas Kohanim drunk. The question is why? Says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, because we compare a Kohen, that the Torah really juxtaposes a Kohen doing the service to a Nazir, and just like a Nazir, of course, is not allowed to drink wine, so also a Kohen who's blessing the people cannot be drunk. Friends, that was Daf Chovav Masechta Taanis. It was a pleasure learning it with you. Have a great day. Peace out.